I've made wines from strawberries, from blackberries, from blueberries, and also from raspberries. This time around, we're going to see if we can make a mixed berry wine containing all four. Okay, to make our mixed berry wine, we are going to need the following ingredients. We're going to need anywhere between 3 to 5 pounds of mixed berries. Right now I'm using strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, and raspberries in my mixed berry wine. You're going to need some wine yeast. I'm using Premier Rouge because it's specifically designed for red wines. It's got an AVB potential of 16%, and a tea bag to give us our tannin. We need the juice of 1 lemon to give us our acid blend. If you've got acid blend, use that instead, but this works out just as well. Up to 4 cups of sugar. Straining bags, which are optional. We're going to need up to 1 gallon or 4 liters of water. Something to do primary fermentation in. Something to do secondary fermentation in. Airlock with stopper. Star sands to clean it all and get everything sanitized, and a hydrometer to let us know what our potential AVB is going to be for this wine. Now I'm using frozen berries for this particular batch of wine. If you've got fresh berries, so much the better. And I'm also using straining bags to help out a bit. If you don't have straining bags, then you just don't have straining bags. Don't worry about it. Move on to the next step. So let's get the berries into the bags. See if I can do this without putting berries all over the place. This time. All right. That actually worked. Okay. Put that off to the side. Almost made it without making a little bit of a mess, but okay. If I were to try and twirl this around instead of just slowly turning the bag so I can tie a knot in it, I will definitely have juice flying all over the place. And I can't have that. So, 2 1-gallon straining bags was all that I needed, which is fine. Don't need that third one. It's now time to move on to the next step, which is the kitchen. Now that I'm in the kitchen, first thing I want to do is I want to pour off about 2 cups of our water to make up the difference from that 2 cups of juice we've got. And the remainder goes in the pot. All right, let's cover that up and let's turn on the heat and let's bring this up to a boil. Now that our water has come to a good rolling boil, turn that down a bit. We want to go ahead and add our fruit. And the purpose of adding our fruit to the boiling water at this point is that since we're not using Camden tablets to sterilize the fruit, we're going to use boiling water to kill off any stray bacteria or stray yeast or bacteria that might be present in the fruit. And while we're at it, just go ahead and add our tea bag / tannin substitute to the mix. And at this point, we're just going to go ahead and bring the temperature up a bit. Let it boil for a few minutes, at least 5 minutes to be on the safer side. And then we're going to let it come down to room temperature. Well, before it comes down to room temperature, while it's still warm, we're going to go ahead and add our sugar. Now that the temperature has come down a little bit, I mean, yeah, it's still hot, but that's good. Because what I want to do now is I want to add at least 3 cups of sugar. I know I'm going to add more, but I'll be taking hydrometer readings to make sure that I don't over sweeten it, at least not initially. But since the water is nice and hot, it'll help dissolve that sugar a whole lot quicker. So we'll just go ahead and give that a stir. A good stir. All right, that's good enough. And we'll just go ahead now and let it come down to room temperature before proceeding to the next step. We'll probably end up mashing these berries a bit more, but I want this to come down to room temperature because we'll need to add our peptic enzyme. Now that the mixed berries have come down to a nice good room temperature, we're going to go ahead and put those in our fermenter. First thing we want to do is transfer our bags of berries All right. Now I did take the opportunity just beforehand to take a hydrometer reading and came up with a reading of 1.092 it looks like, which is exactly where I want it. And I'm now glad that I did not put in that last cup of sugar. 3 cups of sugar was all that I needed to get me to that mark. At this point, it's time to go ahead and put in our peptic enzyme. Now, if you don't have peptic enzyme, don't worry about it. It just simply helps break down the cell walls of the food a bit to release and cause the pectin that's already in there to help break that down as well. Helps the wine clear a little bit faster, but again, if you don't have it, it's no big deal, believe me. About 3/4 teaspoon will do it. We can go ahead and give that a little bit of a stir. And then put the cap back on, because for the next 12 hours, we're going to let the peptic enzyme do its thing. So 12 hours from now, we'll proceed to the next step. More than 12 hours later, it's now time to wrap this up a bit. We're going to go ahead and juice our lemon, which is acting as our acid blend. If you have acid blend, use it if you got it. If you don't, lemon. Go ahead and get that in our berry juice mixture. Straining out any extra little seeds that might be in there. Now all we have to do is add our yeast. Now I'm adding a 1/4 teaspoon of Red Star Premier Rouge yeast. Again, use whatever you got, whatever makes you happy. And just go ahead and sprinkle that around somewhat evenly. And although you don't have to, because I've got some of this yeast sitting on these straining bags, I'm just going to give it just a slight little swirl. Put your cap back on. Nice and tight. And let's move this to the counter. Now you should always label your batches of wine so that you know exactly what it is in case you have multiple batches. You'll know when you did it or started it, and you know the original gravity reading that you began with, which in this case was 1.092. Now we're going to let it sit in doing primary fermentation for the next 5 to 7 days. For at least the next 3 days, we want to remove the cap, give it a good stir to get all the berry juices flowing, and also to incorporate some additional oxygen into your musk. We don't want to do that after that 3-day period, not if we can help it, but the yeast will need the additional oxygen just to help them keep going during this initial process. After that, go ahead and keep your cap on as tight as you can, and after that 5-day period, 5 to 7 day period, you can then go ahead and rack your wine into your secondary. But all things being said and done, this wine is now on its way.